Everything has changed, and whatever role you want to get in luxury, whether it is retail, marketing, supply chain, brand management, anything, it will have some components that are deeply rooted into tech. And I think it's going to be even more in the future. And also, I think that if you want to get a job in luxury, you can really set yourself apart by gaining additional skills and a better understanding about technology. I don't agree with that, like mainstream narrative that says, oh, the next generation is lazy, the next generation doesn't want to work, and so on and so forth. I could not disagree more.
They just want to work differently.
They want to do it very differently. They don't want to do things that is meaningless, but meaning, no, I will not do like the dirty work for 6 years before I can do something interesting. They want to do what's interesting right now.
Welcome to Beyond Luxury, where we explore emerging trends and take them one step further. Join us as we redefine the meaning of luxury in today's ever-evolving world. Building on the themes of my book, Beyond Luxury, The Promise of Emotion, we invite thought leaders from fashion, beauty, wellness, travel, hospitality, culture, and tech to share their insights and story. Welcome to part 2. If you haven't caught up with part 1 yet, I highly recommend starting there. It sets the stage for everything we're about to explore. Let's get right back into it. And I think that's kind of what I want to go into now is how can luxury brands use and leverage AI to really bridge that gap between data-driven insights and decisions and making more creative processes, as really luxury stems in the essence of being a creative first industry.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's not an easy question to answer. The link between AI and the creative process. It's almost a controversial topic in luxury because normally, traditionally, the creative process is owned by the creative director, the art director. And it's very far from the CTO or the people in charge of technology, right? And I think that for a long time, there was a fear or a reluctance from all the people involved in art direction to use technological tools. So I think it's important when we think about the impact of technology and AI on the creative process, it's important to see it as a tool to inspire and not to replace human creativity. It's a way to enhance human creativity, to 10x the power of the designer, to multiply by 10. Mm-hmm. It's not a way to replace the creative director. I'm not saying that, and we've all used Midjourney or DALL-E to create anything artistic. That doesn't make us art directors of a luxury brand. Like for me, the other day I wanted to create an artwork for my apartment using AI. I thought I'm going to create myself some art. And so I asked a bunch of prompts to Midjourney. I used like other AI tool to create visuals, and nothing that I could create was really interesting, So before, I thought that I was not an artist because I didn't know how to paint or draw. Now I know I'm not an artist because I don't have any interesting idea in terms of art. So
I mean, we also have to say that even the art of prompting is an art, right? I think that once you start playing with Midjourney and DALL-E and all of these different platforms, you realize how hard it is to prompt something that gives you a good output. It's not easy.
It is a skill. At some point, I noticed that we don't use this word anymore, but at some point, everybody was talking about prompt engineers. Everybody wanted to recruit prompt engineers, people who are experts at crafting better prompts. And it's true that the results can vary radically between one prompt and another. So there is some know-how here. But for me, I think what separates me from being the next Karl Lagerfeld is not a better prompt. I think there are other, you need some kind of mind, some kind of culture, some kind of experience. So if I were, like the new Karl Lagerfeld or any art director, I would not be afraid of it. I would embrace this technological change and see how I can leverage it to have even more impact on the world. Because, in the end, the dream of any person in creative, whether it is someone involved in product or in marketing, let's say you're the art director of a brand and you're creating its next campaign. Of course, you want the campaign to be beautiful and to stick to the code of the brand and to stick to the vision you have for the brand. But you also want the campaign to be watched by millions of people. And if everybody watch the first 3 seconds of your video and they skip it, then you've missed the point. Even if the video is beautiful, if you didn't implement within the video the best practices that will make it stick, that would create retention, that will make people watch it for a longer time, then you've missed your goal. And even as a creative person, if you have a beautiful creative, but only 2% of it is watched by your audience, that's not going to make you happy. But if you leverage AI or if you leverage creative best practices in order to create content that people want to watch, that people will watch until the very last second, and maybe they will watch it again, and maybe they will send it to their friends because they love it. As a creative person, that's the goal. This is the way. That's what's going to make you happy. And I think, in luxury, you have to have this balance between creating something that has an artistic value, that's beautiful and sticks to the vision, but also that works on the market and resonates with the audience. And so in order to do that, it's true that getting inspired by trends, such as the one we share on Submarine, is a way to generate impact. There is one of the best practices if you read the creative playbook of TikTok that lists all the best practices to create engaging content on TikTok. One of the best practices is called top of trend, top of mind, meaning that the content that will highlight trends that are current and top of mind and important for your audience will generate better engagement and better performance. So therefore, having a way to quickly get access to hundreds and thousands of trends that you can leverage in your content is a key way. But then maybe last thing on your question, the role of AI and data for luxury is that I think that one misconception about insights and data is that people mix the word data and the word insight. They think it's the same thing. And for me, there is this quote that I love from the former CEO of Unilever, who used to say, data makes your briefcase heavy, but insight makes you rich. And data is plentiful. Anybody can give you thousands of data points telling you that this has that many million views, that other thing is growing 2%, and that one thing is decreasing 5%. All these are data points. They're a good raw material to be used maybe by data analysts, geeks, data people. But the real thing that's going to move your business forward is insight. And insight is not just a collection of data points. It's going to be a vision. It's going to be something that's actionable, something that's fresh, something that's disruptive and surprising, and so on and so forth. So what I would encourage people in the luxury business to do is not necessarily to chase as much data as possible, but to start becoming, a hunter for insights. That's where the real value is.
Stop everything you're doing. If you love our podcast and are passionate about the future of luxury, don't forget to hit follow. The more followers we have, the bigger guests we can bring on. Without you, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you. And I think that what you're talking about now is also, we've been super obsessed with collecting data for the past 10 years. It's been like an obsession over collection of data. And this has been a collection of unstructured data. And what you're doing now, which is why you're creating insights, is because you're now grabbing all this unstructured data, and with AI, you're structuring it to give you those insights. And I truly think that's one of the powers of AI, is not only to have this data, which, by the way, I love that quote, that's making your briefcase heavy. You're really allowing data to be structured in order for it to become an insight and to become, dollar-making machine for your company, which is basically what everyone is looking for. And allowing for people that are working in these brands to also be able to use their creativity, let alone even if they're not in the creative teams of big luxury brands, instead of spending 80% of their time researching these trends and 20% of that time creating interesting, more creative strategy decisions, they spend maybe 5% of that time going on platforms like Submarine AI in this case and looking at that data, and then spending all the rest of the time, right, that 95% of the time, in order to actually be creative in your own way and have very strategic decisions being made. So truly,
Right.
I think, I mean, AI is allowing everyone in the luxury industry become more creative, not only creative teams,
Yeah,
thanks to
and maybe to
platforms like
double
yours.
click, yeah, to double click on what you said on structured and unstructured data, and maybe go one step deeper into this. I remember at some points, a few years ago, everybody was talking about big data and how, the fact that we get access and we can now process larger and larger quantities of data changed everything. But there was another notion back then that kind of got forgotten in the way. On the side of big data, some people back then were talking also about dark data. And the difference between like big data and dark data is that dark data is data that is here, but it's not structured in a way that you can leverage it easily. So for instance, let's say if we take the world before Facebook was created, your circle of friends existed somewhere in your mind, maybe in your phone, maybe in a notebook. You had a list of all your friends and their contacts somewhere. But it was not structured in a way that you could bring it to another website, log into a website and leverage it in any way in the digital world. So it was dark data. And when Facebook arrived, they transformed this dark data, your friend network, into something that can be queried via an API, leveraged with third-party apps for advertising, and so on and so forth. And I think that what we're doing here with trends, with Submarine, is the same. The trends that we uncover, they are already here. They're there. They're in the posts. They're in the TikTok posts. They're in the Instagram videos, the Reels. They're on YouTube. It's just that there's so much content. There is an ocean of content. There are millions of posts, thousands of them being added every day by thousands of brands. It is hard to identify what is important and to distinguish the signal from the noise. And so, for instance, to give you one example, I was working with a fragrance brand recently, and we were analyzing the top fragrance trends on TikTok. And we uncover 30 or 40 emerging trends from TikTok content. And one of them was very surprising to me, but actually it was hidden in plain sight. We just analyzed a few hundreds of thousands of posts on TikTok, and we saw that there was this trend that we ended up calling fragrance maxing. And fragrance maxing is a set of behavior that people on TikTok are adopting, where they are trying to maximize the impact of their fragrance. So for instance, we identified a series of videos of people putting their perfume in the fridge or in the freezer for a few hours before applying them, because allegedly it would make it last longer. Okay. Another thing, they were spraying their perfume. Yeah, they were spraying their perfume on, Vaseline moisturizer, so that apparently the Vaseline gets the smell of the moisturizer, and then you can apply it. And it's like a photocopy of your perfume. You just put a few spray on your Vaseline, and then you have 1 month of supply of your fragrance using this. Another thing, they were using, the spray of the actual bottle of perfume. They would hack something into it using some tools, and then they would boost the spray so that it would spray more perfume each time. And they could do something that we called greedy spraying. They would spray a lot on themselves so that they would smell more. All these trends, we did not invent them. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's just that the AI recognized this pattern, recognized from those hundreds of thousands of videos that something was happening. And then, in the end, we ultimately highlighted this insight of fragrance maxing. That's something that a fragrance brand can leverage for the next campaign, for the next product launch, and so on and so forth.
Love that. It reminds me a little bit about those cards when you had to scratch off with a little coin to get the number to come out, like when you wanted the pin of your SIM, where it's there, you just need to scratch it off, right? And exactly. It seems like you're scratching that off to make it really come to the surface. I want to end with a question about where you see all of this going, right? You have a super rich background. You've done so many different things. You are really an entrepreneur at heart. You've been within the biggest tech companies, building new companies since you're super young, working with VCs, and really understanding tech and other capacities and seeing the future of this industry, which is the students that you're working with today, which are the ones that will then be the future leaders of where the luxury industry is going. Can you give us a little insight or a little glimpse of where you see luxury heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, definitely. I think to take the two parts of your question, I think there's one part to say on the people. So the people who are my students today and who will be tomorrow's leaders of the luxury world. And then maybe the luxury industry itself, where is it going?
Great.
So if I think about the people, so every year I have around 100, 150 students, and I spend 150 hours with them teaching them about luxury marketing and strategy. So I feel like I connect with them and I understand, I get really some precious insights on the mindset of the next generation. And I can tell you, they are surprising. They are awesome in a very surprising way. I go every year from good surprises to good surprises. They are extremely curious, open-minded. They all have 10 side hustle and side businesses. They flip sneakers on eBay. They trade crypto. They create blogs and dropshipping business. They're really surprising. Really, I don't agree with that, like mainstream narrative that says, oh, the next generation is lazy, the next generation doesn't want to work, and so on and so forth. I could not disagree more.
They just want to work differently.
They want to do it very differently. They don't want to do things that is meaningless. They will not. They have maybe this sense of entitlement that can be a little bit annoying, but meaning no, I will not do like the dirty work for 6 years before I can do something interesting. They want to do what's interesting right now. To give you one example, I had a student last year. Last year I was teaching this class about luxury and disruption, where we go through all the technologies that are disrupting luxury, going from AI, AR, VR, Web3, the metaverse, NFTs, and so on and so forth. And as an example, I showed this example from last year where Martin Margiela had created a little video game. And when you were playing this video game, if you win, you would get an NFT from Martin Margiela. And only like a few hundreds of those NFTs were actually published, so it could have become something valuable. So I told to my student about this example, showed it in class. And then the next day, one of my students came, and keep in mind that he was not an engineer, he was a business student. He had used ChatGPT to create a script that would play automatically this video game, and he won all the NFTs from Martin Margiela. And so this is the kind of people we are going to face. There are people, he was not an engineer. He taught himself to use ChatGPT and create a script in Python or JavaScript or whatever, and applied it to hack the system and get all the NFTs. And this is one example out of many, many surprising behaviors I had from my students. So for me, I'm amazed by the next generation. I don't know if the job market is ready for them. I don't know if the executives are ready for them. But I can tell you they're very promising, very, very exciting. So that's on the people side.
It will truly be a new wave of creator economy and new jobs for sure coming out of this new generation.
Yeah, definitely. And then maybe the second part of your question, which was like more the market itself. So I don't think we can accurately predict the future. I think we can only speculate, and sometimes we're lucky, and sometimes we're less lucky. I think one thing that the last few years have taught us is how uncertain is the world. Who could have predicted in 2019 what would happen in 2020? This was totally unpredictable. So I would say in the future is the same. It seems like there's something emerging around AI that seems to be about to disrupt everything. I think that the chances that it will actually disrupt the luxury business in many ways are quite high, but who knows, like many people thought that Web3 and NFT would disrupt everything overnight. We all thought that it was just a matter of days before everything was paid in Bitcoin. And in the end, we realized that it's true that Web3 is a revolution, but it will take a lot of time to actually become part of our lives. It seems like AI is designed in a way that makes it much more accessible than Web3. And as we say, design is destiny. So the way AI is designed makes it much more likely to become a mainstream technology that will disrupt the lives of people and the businesses of millions of companies. So I would say, even though we cannot predict for sure, it's very likely that something's going to happen around this. My hypothesis, the way I would speculate around AI is that if you picture yourself in a world where anybody can create thanks to AI. So anybody can write the best texts, can create the best images, can generate the best videos. I think that the special skill set that luxury brands and luxury executives have become a million times more relevant. Because what luxury brands are really good at is creating an emotional link with their audience via the content they create, via the experience they put in place, via the product they build. And in a world where anybody can create something that is flawless, having this way to create products that are not flawless, but that can create an emotional link with people becomes key. There is one article that I always share with my students. It's one of the best ever written article about luxury marketing by Jean-Noël Capferrer, who was my professor when I was a student. And it's called The Anti-Laws of Marketing. And it's a list of 25 anti-laws that define luxury marketing. And one of them is no flaws, no charm. And it's true that if you look at a luxury product, it's not the most flawless product. If you want the most flawless product, you would better go into the premium category or the high-tech categories. Luxury products have flaws, and that's why they are so charming. And I think that in an era where anybody can create something that's flawless thanks to AI, the ability to create flaws that are poetic, that connect emotionally with the audience becomes a key competitive advantage. So I would say, just like the music industry didn't disappear when Spotify and Napster and MP3 emerged, it changed, and now there is an elevated importance of concerts and events and gathering versus owning an actual piece of music. Similarly, I think that in this economy where anybody has access to AI, I think that luxury executives and luxury brands can create something very unique that a lot of people are going to crave for. Emotions, imperfections that are poetic, human connections, all these things that the ancient Greek, like in ancient Greece, there was a word that were used to describe this that was called agalma. Agalma is like the soul of the product, the little something more. That's not just the material aspect of the product, but there's something from the story, the way it was made, the people who were involved. It creates a soul, an agalma. And I think in an AI era, luxury brands will be very well positioned because they know how to create agalma.
Wow, what a great way to finish off. Thank you so much for that. Agalma, I will not forget. Thank you so much, David, for your time, for your energy, for sharing your stories and insights, and for everything you're building and making the next generation of luxury leaders really be prepared for the future. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for everything you do. And I'm very excited to see where Submarine AI goes and a lot more that you're about to build soon.
Thanks a lot, Carlotta. This was very fun.
Thank you. For weekly updates on future trends and the latest insights and data on the luxury industry, be sure to follow us on the Beyond Luxury's weekly Substack. Discover our bespoke trend reports and come to us for luxury futures consulting at Beyond Luxury Group.